And welcome back as we get ready to jump into our second map in the final series of day one here of VCT Stage 2 Challengers. My name is Bach. Joining me on the show is Vancilli. We just watched BBG look pretty good in their first map against version 1. Much better than they looked in either map against XSET earlier. Is this potentially telling? Is BBG going to step things up in this second series now that their tournament hopes are on the line?
Again, looking at this one too, you're looking at Haven, right? So Haven is a map this time that's chosen by version 1. When the isn't this a map where you got upset too for Sentinels? So BBG actually did beat Sentinels onto this very map, and then you just had version 1 that played versus Envy, where, like I said, those moments where they weren't checking their corners, when they weren't communicating, Envy was able to punish that a lot. And in that matchup, the few rounds that I was able to catch there, when they were playing against each other, there was a lot of big flanks going on from Victor and from Crashies. So version 1 had to clean that up a little bit more for them to have a better chance here versus BBG in this second map. Although, if this is the map that they've chosen, there's still a chance to see this a third map. I mean, I've called the third map before. I think we might still have a chance to see it.
Again, I really think something we're going to see maybe even be more of a problem given the long sight lines on the map is that op prominence. You know, how powerful is Rarkar going to be with that bomb?
Yeah.
Now that we move to a map that is typically a little bit stronger for jet mains who op.
I definitely agree with that. And at the same time, it could be the same thing for Vanity, right? Because we've seen Mummy opt with a controller. It works very well. I think Vanity might be able to do it too if they get their money right. Because I think in that previous map on Bind, Vanity pulled out the operator once, and I don't think I heard one shot fire out, right? Twice? And maybe maximum like 2 bullets were shot even, because the first time that he pulled it out, he died right away fighting at the showers. So if you're looking at that head-to-head for Opper versus Opper, then you're definitely going to give that upper hand to Rarkar, or we're just going to try to anti-strat of where Rarkar is going to be and leverage that operator on a different side of the map there for version 1. But looking at this, I think we could see it, our duelists on the attacker side for both ends, for Will, for Zelsis, for Penny, and for Rarkar has been very good. So as much as we like to say that they didn't do as much as they wanted to on the defender side, they played the agents correctly on their attacker side, and we saw a lot more of that utility being played from the other 3 players on their defender side here for both of these teams.
Now, looking at a map like Haven, do you think we'll see any switch-ups for their agent compositions? Do we expect to see potentially that Killjoy come out and play? It's not always the best map, but it should be Cypher, yeah, but you never know. It was a thing for a little while for some teams.
It was a thing, and it's still a thing now, actually, because on Haven, especially with Astra being in that lineup now as an agent, you do see a lot of combination. I mean, we've seen it from Cloud9 White before. We're seeing right now from Envy, where you're doing a lot of, like, hey, it's a combo between Killjoy and also with Astra. So that adds a lot into a lockdown, as well as the nanostorms they could use, as well as the gravity wells that you could combo with that. But in this case, as I mentioned before, for these 2 teams, they haven't really evolved or tried to get a little bit more with the Astra in the lineup. Not saying that it's a bad thing, because there's not a winning recipe right now for any of these teams so far. We'll maybe find out once we reach that international stage and we finally get those regions to clash. But this lineup that they have here, it's most likely going to be an omen for BBG and for version 1, which means that a Cypher could still be totally fine, especially on a map like Haven, right? A Cypher allows you to play an open site C, an open site A, and play those retakes later on with the rest of your utility. Sova is going to be very important to stay alive if they're keeping a Cypher in our lineup.
I really do wonder what the meta is going to look like once we hit that international stage. Like, once we go to Iceland and we see these teams facing off against each other from all different areas of the world, how are these different metas going to meet? Because at various points we've seen matching meta. Like, we've seen NA play what EU plays, we've seen EU play what NA plays, we've seen both regions do a little bit of what Korea does, and then we've seen Korea just do Korea things and go nuts. Same with Brazil and all these other regions. But never at the same time. It feels like we're always out of sync. Like, it's like a constantly evolving thing, too, so it never stays the same for too long.
Mark, I'm just looking forward for next week to see what the meta is going to look like when Viper is going to get you 50 DK by walking through anything that has a toxic screen, right? So teams that are already banning Icebox before, I think might have to start studying Icebox because they might want to take down Split out of their rotation if they're going to have to face off against potentially somebody like Poach that's going to play a Viper, or potentially somebody like we did that's going to play a Viper on that map. The meta is going to shift a lot in terms of how deep this map pool is going to go for these teams, and which is why, as you mentioned at the beginning of the show, where you talked about Sick having a deep agent pool on a lot of different maps, I think we did is one of those players as well that's kind of like Sick right now and playing those agents very well. So you're going to need a lot from these star players or key players that's going to be able to flex through a lot of agents that could help continue to shift the meta or even shift your strategies going head to head. Now maybe even then, the anti-stratting is going to happen. But looking at this, though, there's not going to be much anti-stratting. Again, it's play your own game, try to figure out how you want to work things out. Zelsis at some point did play a raise in the early matches of the qualifiers, even in the Nursery Gamers Monthly, because there was more practice for version 1 playing on the new patch / old patch with Nursery Gamers Monthly and into this one. And they've realized now for version 1 that they're a little bit more comfortable playing with a Reyna instead of a raise.
Yeah, it's an interesting switch up there that puts Penny in the position of Jet. You've got Reyna coming in instead of Phoenix for Zelsis, and then player 1, Vanity and Epi stay with the agents they played on the previous map. Things mostly the same for the other side, with the exception of Will, who is now playing Phoenix instead of Raze, but it's a quick pick from Will, who had the hot hand, no pun intended, based on his current agent selection in that first map. I mean, he looked so incredibly good as Raze, topping the charts as well for the team. And it will be a quick pick that comes out for them early that eliminates the threat of Penny playing as the Jet. So we'll have to wait and see what kind of effect Penny on the Jet is going to have.
Little things, too. You noticed Roghar a couple of seconds ago. He had a Classic in his hand, so he dropped it on the ground so he could pick it up, get a pick towards Garage if he can. If not, picks up the Shorty so he can play close range. And now, potentially, he picks up the Classic again because the hit is happening towards the A site now for the attackers of version 1.
Smokes down on short, and it looks like they want to just go past it. Will, not really scared of the fact that he's low on HP. You've got player 1 around the corner who is also low, has to take the battle with the retreating Poach. You've still got the Frenzy on site. That's critical in position. Zelsis coming around the corner, has the heal, making a follow-up as well. Zelsis now, with that heal on Reyna, can be so scary based on the way he played in that first map. And a great port with the dark cover as well to get that spike across. Zelsis is in prime position here. 1, maybe 2. Yes, it's going to be the 4K. Zelsis locks it down in pistol for version 1.
We are Zelsis. Get your hashtags out there. He definitely helped the team for version 1 save that round for the attacker side too. Yes, it was a low HP player for Will walking down towards the sewers, but they had numbers advantage. They had a perfect setup for a crossfire. And look at how this moves too. Like, I love when players are working together, walking through the smoke so that you're keeping your crosshair placement and a gamble just a little bit off for your opponents because you might be able to get a kill. Technically, the trade should happen. But Zelsis, as he continues to dance left and right, is able to secure that 4th kill to make things a lot easier, even securing that round for version 1. So you got to thank your stars. You got to thank Zelsis for that round.
Well played from Zelsis, who almost hits 1,000 ACS in the pistol round. A lot of damage being dealt. Yeah, not bad. A decent start, I guess. Some would call that pedestrian pace for some players. The dart's going to give away the position, but they got to be careful. That's a shotgun raining around the corner. As we know, the shotgun's still very strong in this patch.
Ooh.
Roghar tries to charge in just a little bit too far, and it does result in his immediate demise. Effie's actually catches Critical, who was going for a jump dart towards long. His first dart actually didn't connect with Zelsis either, as it went into the far corner, not the, or actually the close corner, excuse me, not the far corner, as he did have it bounce once.
And it's just unlucky.
We do have some aggression coming in from Poach, who's going to be in a good position. It's all going to come down to timing, though. And there's only one player that they really have to worry about. Now, the question is, based on how much space Penny gets, do they move up? Do they decide, okay, Penny's on A, we should just go A? This is going to get real awkward if that's what ends up happening.
I mean, the trap bar is there. They're going to jump over that, but there's a camera still. If they pop the camera up, there's going to be so much information already. So you walk up towards C. It's totally fine at this point, especially with 15 seconds left on the clock.
Yeah, they didn't have time.
You're going to run into this site. You're going to get this plant. But I was going to say it's just unlucky for the fact that Rarkar was trying to rush down that C side to get some Bucky kills and basically allowed Zelsis to get his health back to 100 from the way that he got that frag, because it was down to like pretty much 20 at that point. So version 1 will technically get this round. It's a 5 versus 1. Should be a... Okay, I was going to say... Should be a flawless caster cursed it, but at least a little bit of damage done, but not too much. This should be still pretty good into their bonus into the next.
He almost got that third dink necessary. 2 headshots, not enough. As we find ourselves at the first buy round, or what would be the first buy round, excuse me. Because of the force that came in from BBG, correct, they're going to have to save again. They'll spend a little bit, dropping down to 1,200 on critical. His next buy won't be super fantastic. But Bjor, on the other hand, sitting just about bare minimum. The biggest issue with even these sheriff buys is, you know, what are you going to have for utility in the round that follows, especially on players that you really want to have that utility. When you're looking at a player like Cypher, that Agent obviously lives and dies by the tripwires and cyber cages. Free entries onto the B site allows them to gain complete access, and pieces are falling all across the board. The only player left standing is Bjor. The extra money spent doesn't really do too much for them, as player 1 finds a 4K and the flawless round victory over BBG. But see, you can see what I'm talking about now. Look at the way the money is. Look how awkward it is with the way they have to spend. Like, they just put themselves down on $0 in order to get this buy out there. So Bjor does have close to a full kit. Actually, he has a full kit. It looks like he used his 1 tripwire already.
Yep. Yeah, so they're going to be totally fine, but still, the point is there here, bot, because they have bot down pretty low, and you're still trying to figure out for critical if you want to go for this Odin or not. But I think that last round was very well read for version 1. They probably knew it was going to be some sort of an eco going in, so they worked towards that B site. They didn't think there was going to be more Buckies on a crossfire on tight angles on B site, so very smart for them to get that plant into that site. So that's going to be another bonus round coming in for version 1. So you see the 4 Spectres, or should I say 3 Spectres, a Vandal, and a Phantom. If they're able to make things expensive, even if they take the round, if they get the kills onto Rarkar, they don't allow version or BBG to save, they're going to look pretty good here on this attacker side, especially now that both cyber cages have already been pulled up here on the C side. There's less utility to hold now for BBG.
There's the dash in from Rarkar. Excuse me, from Penny. That gets him onto the site, but it's kills back and forth. That puts BBG in the control position. Zelsis, oh, that's unfortunate. The self-heal, not really going to do too much in that instance. A dismiss might have bought him a second or two, but he likely would have died regardless. Vanity, LMS with an SMG. In a 1-on-2 against Poach and Rarkar. Rarkar sitting on full HP, no armor though.
30 seconds.
So glass cannon on the operator, and Poach at half health. All about timing right now for Vanity. It doesn't look like Vanity wants to make a play towards C. It looks like Vanity wants to try to make a play towards B, potentially. Trying to bait them out of position, but the problem is, look at Rarkar's position.
He's going to hear him.
Yeah, as soon as he goes for the plant, there's going to be a player right there. Now, the tripwire on the wall, obviously, is not going to be a factor. Has to go for an open plant. Which way does he go? Oh, he's already got an idea that he's here. Just opens fire with a little pea shooter SMG he's got. He's got to find a first kill here to force it into a 1-on-1. Unfortunately, he swings wide into both players. Wouldn't have really panned out so well for him. The first round does go on the board for BBG.
The idea was still there. I liked how he was just jumping around, trying to force Rarkar out of position too. But Rarkar definitely the smarter player, or not the smarter player, but the smart player to stay put and just watch the angle, because his teammate Poach that was rotating on that C-link was already watching his front side. So you got some good communication at that point for BBG to win that round. But like I said before, right, you're able to get 3 kills out of that one on your bonus round. Thankfully, at least Rarkar is able to save his operator, and he has knives this time too. But for the rest, it's going to be a Spectre here for Bjor so he can get his utility in. But it's still going to be a round where they're going to be forced to eco if they don't get this one here. For the attacker side, version 1, they have Zelsis still on that Empress, and you could leverage that now for this A hit.
Fast towards the the A site they seem to be going. Penny gets the early pick off Rarkar. As Rarkar escapes, takes a shot and gets dropped down to 71. It will be retake territory, but it's a 5-on-4. The numbers in favor of the attacking side of version 1. They've got this site on lockdown. Dueling drones, passing each other. No charges. But neither one's really going to get the intel necessary. Again, this is getting a little bit problematic right now for BBG. They're just getting into this site too slowly. Rarkar goes for the ult pop, doesn't pan out so well. And now you can see the 2 remaining members backing off. This is a save. They needed that to work out so much better for them. They just didn't have any openings. They didn't get any intel. They had nothing that they needed to logistically get back into that site.
I think even if you wanted to risk that high on that push coming in here from Rarkar, I like this though. Chase them down, trying to prevent them from saving their weapons. That's another player to fall, but yeah, that's going to be good enough. It's a 1 versus 1, and that's it. You're still able to drop the operator at the beginning of that site. I was going to say, if Rarkar wanted to push in with that Blade Storm, maybe drop that operator for somebody else. He picks up the rifle so that potentially they could get the operator into the next round. But again, that clock was ticking down on that spike. You had to act a little bit quicker because they have wasted a lot of time already on that attempt of a retake. So very, very well done for version 1 to not try to be antsy and try to fight back against BBG. Let BBG make the first move and then chase after them. Yeah, they lost a couple of players, but you can see how healthy it is for their round on the attacker side still of version 1.
Damage dealt again early on. Poach sitting at 58 HP already. There's an early ult coming out from Critical, trying to do some additional damage. Does trace out Vanity, and it's looking like a promising start for BBG. Despite the fact that they've got subpar hardware, a Stinger, a couple of pistols, and 1 rifle, they're making it work.
Catch him off guard. Pick him towards that garage side like Immortals kind of did versus TSM. Go for those early picks and hope for that rifle to work out. Even these Sheriffs, this is a great round for BBG, despite the lower buy that they had, to just keep version 1 guessing. Like, those kills happened so quickly onto the grass side, and they could potentially upgrade on these weapons from that flank too. So not easy for Zelsis and FPs now.
One could say that those kills were quite critical. No?
I chuckled. I gave it to you a bit. Yeah, that's a 4. That's a 4 on 10.
Well, that's exactly what I aimed for, so I guess you set the bar low and you're fine. Zelsis trying to go on a rampage here. Backs against the wall. Time is a problem. Pulse gives away his position. Not that it matters. They knew he was in a similar location, but he won't have the ability to play off. Potentially the thought that he was going elsewhere. It's a thrifty round win, but it ends up costing BBG more off the back of Zelsis and his ult, so at least he keeps them from pulling too many weapons into the next round. But still not the way you want to see a round go if you're version 1. 2 players surviving, this 2 players too many when they're coming in as an eco.
And this is where you're happy when you have Jet in your lineup too, right? You might not have enough in terms of buying a weapon, but you got a Blade Storm already popped up. That could potentially be a rifle in itself, and we see how Penny could be good with the left clicks. Maybe not as potent as we want him on the right clicks from time to time, but those left clicks are still very good here for this agent, wielded by Penny, and we'll see if it'll work out, if they could actually make put things back in their favor for version 1. But BBG on the right foot to catch up into this game.
No more charge.
Player 1 picking off the Cypher duel goes the direction of version 1. They've got site control. Are they prepared for Poach on the flank? Yes, they are. Site's been lost, and as great as that last round was, the rifles don't seem to be doing BBG too many favors. Now, Will does catch Zelsis in an awkward position, caught in a bit of a sandwich there. The shot's going towards backside, spamming through that box, just narrowly surviving as Penny. Vanity's got a backstab onto Will. It's flanks on flanks on flanks this round. Critical able to get at least 1 kill, as again the battle continues on site. And this time around it'll be version 1 who survives with 2. Sure, they lost against a thrifty round, but they fire back immediately, and they get themselves back on the scoreboard yet again. The money is kind of in a weird spot because BBG had 2 players survive off a thrifty round win. Those 2 can buy, as they didn't have to purchase in the next. But even then, they're trying to figure out how they want to balance out the buy, and Bjor even though Bjor has a decent amount of cash, decides to go with the Marshall.
That was exactly the plan there, going for version 1. Keep them guessing, right? BBG, they caught version 1 off guard, won on a thrifty, and version 1 said, we're not going to let this affect us. We're just going to explode really quickly into a C site, again, knowing that you have a Cypher playing into your lineup. So you're just going to set the camera up. It's an open site, easy plan. And this time, they're still not letting go of that pedal, and they're just going to rush into that B site, get those openings, and even get the plant once again. So keep that in mind. When BBG is going to be on some sort of an eco, potentially version 1 will keep working towards this B site.
Last player standing.
Got Poach on the flank. It's a flawless round victory, as it should be, given what BBG brought into the play. That's more along the lines of what you want to see when you face off against a weak buy or a save, if you're version 1. Zels is again commanding control of the scoreboard, currently sitting at 11-4, but surprisingly so, Cypher by his side, player 1. It's a player we talked about coming into the series. We mentioned that battle of the Sentinels, Bjor and player 1. Player 1, a more recent Sentinel as well, while Bjor has played that role in some shape or form, whether it was a Sage or his currently favored position of Killjoy and Cypher. But player 1, for a long time, played controllers, was notorious for his Brim play early on.
Yeah, definitely, and Bjor comfortable in this role too. Even Poach now into this round, getting the first blood. Things are finally not looking good for version 1, better for BBG, as they want to go for that surprise kill, the surprise fight, that worked towards that sewers. Now you're going to have to fight back, trying to gain that information back without peeking out for your opponents. So we force the Allen drone early for Effies. We have a recon dart, but we're still trying to punish early with this map control, and now we even things up. Both teams are going to have to start guessing now.
Yeah, that keeps them really uneasy, because look at the C site currently. It's pretty much empty. Now, Fjord did just get a kill onto player 1. That was over on long A. Got the ult coming out as well. There's a nice peek, well-timed to catch the spike in mid. With 45 seconds left, it's down to a 2-on-4, and these players got to come back to the spike. I love the shock darts being used currently. Critical. Doing decent damage as one did hit Zelsis, putting him down on 76. There's the peak, and there's the inevitable heal, negating the effects of the shock dart. So he's back up to 100 HP with 32 armor.
It's okay.
And they've got the spike, but look at the flank. They are not prepared for this. It's all about patience right now. A 1-2 punch from Bjor, making it look easy, as BBG get their third on the scoreboard, with 3 players surviving, no less.
And that's why you were still probably questioning why is Critical continuing to peek left and right, and you saw that he actually wasn't really wide swinging, right? He's using the shock darts, as you mentioned before here, Mark. He actually used a recon dart at the beginning as well, forcing them and keeping them under the window. But as soon as he dies, 4 seconds later, 3 seconds later, 2 players are already on the flank. So they were in a great spot. It was the bait and switch there, Critical making sure that he's keeping his opponents just at the under the window side, sorry, so they could actually get this press and this pinch from front B and also from window to get this round. So BBG, they got 3 rounds on the board right now, and it looked pretty one-sided at the beginning, but they're slowly slowly clawing back into this round, into this matchup, to potentially make it a 6-6 with the way things have been going with their last thrifties into now.
Thought for a second he could escape that one, as it looked like the drone wasn't going to fully clear the right side, but it ends up happening. He throws down that cyber cage to survive. Speaking of the cyber cage, Bjor was up top. I know there's one more on the site. There's a lot of confusion right now going on over on this site. There's the ult coming out as well, but the ult doesn't really work out so well.
Yeah.
It doesn't take out anyone in the process. The attempted retake falls flat, and they didn't even really gain site control when that battle took place. They lost site control, but at the same point in time, version 1 still hadn't even secured the plant. 7-3. Version 1 looks so much different on Haven than they did on Bind in that first half, but this is what we expected from them.
Yeah.
Again, we mentioned it. BBG played X-Set in their previous series on Haven, and it was rough. Like, real rough.
Mark, this is my turn.
Exactly.
The ult from the run it back, I guess it didn't work too well. you get that one? Right. But here, now we have a half buy. We see them trying to work towards this mid. This is what I was saying before, right? Grass control. They know the pressure is coming forward, but we actually do have Will. Speaking about him, that lurked down under the window, and there's that crossfire. That was perfect here, and they're continuing to press forward for both of these teams. It's going to be a bloodbath now here, Buck.
Down to just 2 here, but 3 on the other side. Rarkar's in great position. It's just a little bit too late. Delayed behind the play by a fraction of a second. And he can't get there in time, and now Effie's is even watching the flank. It's a question of who's going to win this battle. Probably going to be Effie's who's holding that line. In fact, it is. Critical. The only player left standing on the defense. No surprise yet again as it comes down to a 1vx. We've seen that happen so many times here for BBG as version 1 has really controlled the early round in this first half. And, you know, it's looking back at that joke, I think you might want to send it into workshop, revise it a little bit. It seems like it might be like an early access version. Maybe it's version 1 of the joke.
Nah, I like that one too. I like that one too. I'm gonna keep building on it.
Can you give me a penny for your thoughts? All right, I'm done.
Yeah, you could. Maybe I'll just poach it from you. Okay, anyways, let's get back to the action. 8-3 right now, and there you go. Rarkar getting the operator out, punishing Penny to start things off, and look how fast he dashes away. So he's already up towards heaven, so when the smoke dissipates, he might be able to get a couple more picks if we're working too slowly right now for version 1.
Fire these casters, they're boring. Looking at the take towards the A site, you've got version 1 who is down a player, which isn't something that we've seen a whole lot, as it has been frequently them finding those opening picks. And they're without Penny, which makes things a little bit more awkward and uncomfortable for them, and you can see the effect. If they get that opening pick, just how much better BBG can be. It's like they ride off that confident wave, finding that early battle going their way. Unfortunately, that didn't happen enough, as is evidenced by the current score, 8-4, your halftime score. But this is exactly what we saw in map 1. Version 1 was down 8-4, and they still kept it close. There's still fighting potential here for BBG to try and come back in this second half and at least keep that score line a little bit close and fight for a potential 2-0. You know, originally, when I was coming into this series, I was willing to write off BBG just because of what had happened to them in the series prior against XZ. But I've been impressed, even if Haven hasn't been going well for them, and I see the potential, the possibility for a comeback is absolutely there.
Yeah, definitely. So far for version 1, though, I do have to praise them as well. Actually, let's talk about that later. They're looking for something aggressive this time for version 1. They're pushing 4 players down towards mid and 1 garage. This could be dangerous now for BBG.
Very aggressive play, like you mentioned, in version 1. They're capitalizing on it. This is reminiscent of the pistol round in the second half of that first map, too, where they just charged down short A and just took the battle.
Yeah, and that was BBG, though, right? And this time, though, it works in favor of version 1, so
correct.
Very good round. And as now they win this round, I said I wanted to commend version 1 of how they're able to punish as well this open C site. Like I said, when you have a Cypher playing, you kind of want to play like a retake kind of thing, and they put that a lot on Pure on that defender side of C. Now that they take the attacker side in version 1, player 1's playing that Cypher, it seems as though he's setting up very similarly to how Bure is playing. So with the composition now that BBG has, they could also do pretty much the same thing as version 1 did on that C side. So I do expect for BBG on this attacker side to play this a little bit more aggressively, explode a little bit more for these dashes into the site.
Will, curveball, waiting around the corner as they start to take control of Garage. Puts a lot of pressure on Zelsis, who has to back off. They've got full C-side control, and they've done it with limited hardware. They've got the Bucky, 2 SMGs, 2 Frenzies, an interesting loadout for sure. Pure could be so pivotal to this. And as you can see, that's what I'm talking about. Catching one on the flank. They were not prepared for that, but look at this setup. Everything is focused in Garage. Literally all 5 players in Garage.
What is
this? It's going to be a brawl in that area. They're trying to funnel them in, and it looks like they're just going to go for C site control and smoke off the spike and try and stick it. They're going to get it to at least halfway inside. That cloud burst coming in from Jet. But the way they set themselves up for this was definitely confusing. Now he does go for the redirect. He tries to actually hit the spike and he blasts Heavies in the face instead with a shock dart. He took one for the team, steps in front of it, and ultimately it will be version 1 who win the round. BBG, they get site control and then they very awkwardly all clustered up inside garage. I don't know.
I kind of liked it though.
It was weird, right? So, like you kind of surrender spike.
Yeah, well, the thing is you see from the way that it's planted towards that C site, right, for long sometimes, and a lot of people are critiquing right now, me, myself included, that, you know what, looking at how Haven's played right now, playing back towards long C and trying to spam through smoke, it's not the way anymore. So now that you have 5 players stacked inside the garage side, you have some players that can angle up and fight towards the spike plant, but at the same time, push through garage and go for a flank. So that was the idea that they had with the Spectres, with the Buckies, to continue to use that close range on that battles that they could have to be able to pinch into the site. But of course, you saw some better shooting there because they didn't clear the right side corner of the garage window. So with that, puts BBG on an eco, as you could see them just cleaning things up for version 1 as everybody else is trying to rush down towards this short A control for Built by Gamers. So again, just to refer back on that 2 rounds ago, it was a great idea that they had for BBG, just had to clear that right side of that window where potentially could have been a whole different story for BBG.
Version 1, they may have won the round, but Vanity is sticking with his trusty Bucky. That's a player we've seen use that quite a bit.
I love it.
Reminds me a lot of Steel, his former in-game leader when he played for Chaos. Just his propensity to go to that as well. Oh, that's a huge Hunter's Fury right off the bat. Getting a lot of intel early on off that pulse. It does only do damage to 1 target, though.
2.
So
I thought he was going to get 3, but he got 2.
Yeah, did it get 2?
Yeah, Will's at, you see how his armor's low and a bit of low HP, so...
But wouldn't it be lower?
Maybe.
Yeah, I'm confused. I think he might have taken damage from something else.
You're right. I don't know.
Zelsis.
His poach is low
trying
too.
To get aggressive on long. Doesn't work out so well.
Yeah. Nonetheless, though, I mean, with that, it did spot a bit of information. I saw 3 players that were repulsed by that. So my apologies, Chad, if I'm wrong on that. But I'm pretty sure he got Poach, Rarkar, and also Will at that point. But with that, though, BBG, as they noticed that they were getting pulsed, they just rushed down towards the C side, and it works out. They're going to get this plant, but there's already a big flank coming in from Penny. The trait comes out as well, and Neffy's just stuck on his own now.
Spike planted.
Neffy's going back to the flank. And they're going to be looking the other direction. Does he get a free kill on these players looking away? There's one. But that's the only one he's going to get. Oh, Effie's lining him up. He's now got himself in a 1-on-2. This is winnable. Shock darts and an owl drone, but he's also got a recon dart in 6 seconds. If he can just hold on for 1 more second, not going to happen. As Bjor and Rarkar go for the high-low peak from logs in close corner. It's a 5th round for BBG. They got a stay of execution for the time being. Look at that commanding control of the scoreboard, though, for Zelsis. 5,000 damage dealt thus far. 17, 8, and 5. Player 1, 17, 7, and 5. Same amount of kills, 700 less damage.
Yeah, Zelsis has been crucial right now for version 1, especially on the pistol rounds, right? I think we talked about the 4K on that first pistol, got a couple of more on that second pistol. So it did really help version 1 to really gain this lead early into these halves by winning those pistols. But with that, though, you're starring BBG again, starting to claw back into the matchup. That last round that they gotten, they read version 1 perfectly to get into that C site, although during the execution on the post plan, they did lose a few players. Thankfully, though, they have enough money to go for these weapons into this round. But it's still a stalemate. You're trying to explode somehow into this B side with the run it back, but it gets canceled early towards the garage side, and Rarkar punishes for 2 of his own on B.
BBG looking good in this round. And again, it's been reduced down to 1. It's Zelsis. And we've seen him in scenarios like this before, but this is going to be difficult. Look at even just the setup. There's players everywhere. You've got a player in mid, one outside mid window towards spawn. You've got a player towards long C. Zelsis is just locking down attacker spawn, trying to save this rifle and maybe get an exit or 2 on the way out of the site. Rarkar, though,
Oh, this
Oh,
timing.
I think he actually spotted the backside of Rarkar, so he might get the timing here. Does he go for the knife? Oh, come on. I thought he was gonna. Zelsis is the type of player to do it, but he saw the movement, got a little bit scared.
Oh, no.
Come on. How does that happen? I thought for sure he was dead to rights there.
I mean, now you're making things even more expensive. If he gets his third kill onto Bjor, it's getting so close. You see even Bjor at that point, he doesn't want to push anymore because like I said, they've lost what, 3 players on that previous round. They lost 3 players into this round here too. They can't afford to lose another player. Now, thankfully, they could potentially drop a weapon for one of their teammates. There you go. Rarkar's already down to 0. They can't get an operator out. So this is pretty decent for version 1. But thankfully for Built by Gamers, they are going to face against a half buy for version 1 into this round. But again, it's the defender side this time with Bucky's. But you know what? As much as I praised a lot into Vanity, Player 1, and everybody else from version 1 with their Bucky's versus FaZe, I haven't seen much results on these buys on this into the series.
Zelsis with the dismiss to get away. Great damage early on. Has to be careful. There's targets building up around the corner. Goes for the flash. Ult being utilized as well. Nice Leer coming out to try and slow them down. But now you know Zelsis wants to get some kills, wants to try and fill up that HP back to full, and Player 1 is really in a bad spot. It's confusing to even figure out what's going on with Player 1, but from his perspective, it seems to be as clear as day as he got one more kill with just a shotgun. Will ending Zelsis' chance of padding out that HP, and the ult from Penny is unsuccessful. Vanity with the shotgun taken down through the blaze wall. Again, we mentioned it. This game was not over. BBG keeping themselves in it. They've now reduced the lead down to just 4 rounds. And sure, that wasn't exactly the strongest buy, but money is starting to build up on the other side for BBG.
Yeah, now that we continue to see this setup here for their ciphers on the C side, whether it's Bjor or Player 1, I do like the fact that version 1, they're looking to get more A side control, right? They have 3 players there. They could throw the recon dart in that area and try to fight back into the corner and see if they could gain that map control in that sense. But look at it from that mini-map. They're just going to look to explode for BBG into the C side again, force the player retake into the site for the C side, where it hasn't been successful that much for version 1. So let's see what happens now.
BBG just explode onto the C site. We saw them do this before, and the last time they did, everyone funneled into the garage in a claustrophobic attempt to hold the C site. But this time around, they've got the rifles, they've got the utility necessary. Critical from distance, laying down some damage with his ult, gets intel that there's one towards spawn.
Yeah.
Not like that's a secret. They would have known that that's where they're likely to be coming from. There's the counter ult coming out. Rarkar playing close, able to get the double. Goes to the other side of the wall as well, but it's Effie's with a 1-2 punch of his own from the ult. It's now down to Will, who's in the clutch position. He's got the ult, hot hands the spike. Not sure if that's going to buy him enough time.
Yeah. Oh, maybe not.
No. That's close.
It will.
He's got it, yeah.
Hot hands or not, he had that round, so very well done. Done there for Will, sorry, and corrected myself at that point too. I saw that Hunter's Fury that came out that hit Penny, so a good 70 damage. So a couple of rounds ago, it definitely wasn't a pulse that hit 3 players. It was probably a recon dart at the same time too. That said, though, I think it continues on. Those explosions into the C site, getting Rarkar dashing into the site, getting that recon dart from Critical in that back of the site just to gain that pulse plant situation. The early aggression into C just pays off very well for BBG, as it did for version 1 too. But as this happens, there's not much adaptation on that C side. You're just trying to control more towards mid. You're trying to control more towards A side for version 1. But the retake still isn't strong enough. So I think they might have to try to change a bit of their utilities on the C side hold.
Early pickoff. Penny again eliminated. Nice shock dart coming in as well onto Effie's, who's sitting around the corner and just eats up that shock damage. BBG, again, map 1.
Yes.
Now they're clawing back into this second map. This is an elimination match. Loser will be knocked out of challengers, and the winner will continue on in this lower bracket. They roll the dice, going towards long instead of sewers, and it's the right call. Zelsis has made it back into the site, but with only a buck, he might get spotted out here by the drone, trying to dodge it as best as possible. Gets spotted at the last possible second. And now the site's been lost. Vanity also dying over towards short as Rarkar gets curious as to what could be coming in from that territory. Good shock dart utilization from Effys to at least prevent the spike from planting momentarily. But it still seems like it was guaranteed to happen. We are at 11-9 now. 2 rounds separating BBG and version 1. I would love to see a timeline of these rounds to see just how things have shaped up. This was 8-4 at half. So a nice little turnaround here from BBG. But it's another full buy round coming in from version 1.
And at least a timeline here for the attacker side of BBG is just how Rarkar is just dashing into these sites all the time. And they have no way to stop it, no way to prevent it. Sometimes with a camera, you could actually try to get the ping down and try to stop Rarkar in his tracks from the way he's been able to just freely get into these sites. If it's not C, it was A. I'm pretty sure he did it towards that B site before too. They got to find a way to stop him. He's having an amazing half so far on the attacker side for BBG.
Joke's over. You're dead.
There's the flash coming in off the back of Will's ult. Run it back being used yet again to try and just blow up onto the site. It's actually Rarkar, though, who comes through from Garage. Even gets the 180. He sets the spin cycle to extreme and goes 180 degrees and catches a target that should have had him dead to rights. Now Penny, he catches Rarkar sleeping. Rarkar looking the wrong direction.
You're saving. Yeah, no choice.
But yeah, exactly. This is a 2-on-4, and I don't know, they're pretty far up for a save. I think they're going for it. They're feeling confident in this scenario. Now, off that kill, maybe you could argue that it was save time, but they advanced up pretty far. Double digits for BBG, 1 round away from tying things up. The score very reminiscent to map 1, which was 8-4 at half in favor of BBG, but once the side swapped, version 1 came alive. And the same thing's happening here for BBG.
Yeah. I guess I could understand why you want to try to go for it, too. I mean, you lose those weapons. It was going to be a half buy no matter what there for version 1 into this round here. You want to add more credits into your bank so you could actually try to win out after potentially BBG ties it 11-11. Again, I'm saying that because those Buckies, I haven't seen much of it yet. But Rarkar on that previous round, like, just, again, the way that he's able to make it all the way back towards the spawn site, too, from that position, you see how pushed up BBG are at the same time on that pulse plan. So it would have been pretty much difficult right now for version 1 to play that retake on a 2v4 because of how pushed up their opponents were. But again, in hindsight, we'll see what happens into this round and see if version 1 could win out from here on out. But if not, let's give it to BBG on how hard they've been playing this second half. If you called an 8-4 on that first half, BBG has been doing very well right now on the attacker side, only giving version 1 those 3 rounds so far.
Again, the money. A problem here for version 1. You mentioned it before. You kind of like look at that last round. You think, oh man, maybe a save in that scenario would have had greater value. But they opted to go for it. They didn't really find much for their troubles. Looks like they do want to go towards the B site where you're going to have a Sheriff in position alongside Zelsis with the SMG. It's all about timing right now for Zelsis, who goes for the swing. Can't quite get the opener, but they don't realize that Penny's here as well. It doesn't matter. Penny not able to best Will, who was waiting around the corner. Nice shot coming out on the Classic, but it is just the Classic, so it doesn't do nearly enough damage. Nice shock darts coming into position as well to push Will out of that spot in Cubby. Effys with only a Sheriff, and the dart's going to get smoked out as well, so it's not really going to give him anything. And that's what allows Rarkar to just hang out in this position, and it should be a relatively easy round here for BBG to win. We are tied up 11-11 as version 1 now staring down the barrel of a very scary scoreline. compared to where they were at, and you can see that in the purchase. You've got Penny going to the op. We haven't seen too much of the operator here in map number 2.
And you see the red ping. So the red ping came out potentially on the attacker's side to say, look, they're 1 ult away, 1 point away from Effie's or from Penny. So they might just want to try to pressure that out, prevent Effie's from getting that Hunter's Fury readied up, while you have Penny that's going to be opping towards window instead. I like that call from version 1 too, because an op kill allows you to get the knives anyways, and there you go, you're pushing Effie's back, no orb to be picked up, and now you also have this A choke control. But look at this flank coming in from Zelsis. Oh, the camera spots him though, right? That was a teammate camera. So Zelsis is still going to be able to push and flank, and this is going to be huge now. That's a kill.
Oh, Yor did not stand a chance. That's a big pickup to start out the round. That's something that we haven't seen a whole lot of. Now, it does look like we are a little bit frozen here on the HUD, but we're definitely down to a 5-on-4. So keep that in mind.
And because they don't have the Hunter's Fury too, right? So you're just trying to jump peek. You can't really fight back at this point. Now you're resetting things here for BBG. You're going to try to work back towards the B side. But like I said, at the beginning when I thought it was going to be an enemy camera, it's a teammate camera from the defender side. Oh. So it spots Rarkar. But Rarkar still has position where he could just dash into side or gain control here. He's been a key component to BBG's entries to these sites.
Rarkar is in such a weird spot, though, that he has to use a knife to take out the cam because he doesn't want to risk switching to the pistol in open territory. It's like an awkward position to be in. Zelsis can't stop the getaway in time, so that allows Poach to escape with, again, the best HP possible. Nice shot from Rarkar to try and slow down the retake. Smoke's going to go in. That's going to eliminate his position, at least for the moment, but again, he still has the knives. So there's still potential here. It's up to Zelsis, who's coming through on the flank. Does get both, lines them up. And now it's down to just a few. They're sticking the spike. The Leer is going to make things so much harder for them to work. They stop the spike from being defused, but it's down to 1 player on both sides.
No time.
As Zelsis has to go in for the charge. But like you mentioned, not enough time. There is no way he can get it, and he realizes it. He's going to grab the op and escape. And it will be BBG, who have now secured Magic Round number 12, guaranteeing at the very least overtime as a possibility.
BBG looking to continue the run. What a comeback right now in this matchup. In the second half of all things, too, to also put them at series point. And you saw that communication in the end from Zelsis, probably with the team. It's like, hey, it's halfway. You might get it. And then he was still hesitating there. But that moment of hesitation definitely just sealed the deal. That forces version 1 to have to try to come back into this game by bringing this matchup into overtime. And with the amount that they spent on that previous round, we kind of want to know what they have into this round here. It's going to be rifles. I mean, you are buying whatever you can. And then we'll see if it pans out in their favor. You have Zelsis with that op. They don't want to give it to Penny. He's actually opting towards the C side. So like I said before, all these times that BBG have been working towards the C side and just dashing in, this time you're posting an operator towards that C side and hoping they get a kill as Penny has his knives out.
That could be a deciding factor as Penny with the knives. You've got Rarkar with an op on the other side. Also, not with the ult, though. Keep in mind, it's still bugged. So he does not currently have the ult. He used it in the previous round. Zelsis as well had an op. So that made things real interesting. As we are going to see the ult come out from Critical. Hold on, BBG, they've made it manageable. This is a 4-on-3 right now, but you've still got Vanity, who's been lurking the whole round on long. Great paranoia coming out as the blind kill comes through. We are tied up at 12 apiece. We are going to overtime.
And that's what I said, right? Find a way how to stop these pushes into the C site. Not only did it put Zelsis with that operator that he saved on that previous round, because, again, Penny had the knives, so they didn't really give him the op. They wanted to use as much utility and weapons as they can in their favor. So using the knives as a long-range weapon, having a Spectre on a close range, but also putting Vanity in that corner of that C cupboard. The C cubby, sorry. It allows for them to try to get that crossfire, the trades as well, and the baits in case Zelsis misses an off-shot down towards long C. But now BBG goes into the garage side. It was perfect positioning. That double flank that came in, or the double kill flank that came in from Vanity, allowed version 1 to bring this into overtime. So a big round that was needed, of course, because they were facing elimination for version 1. They played out perfectly finally to counter that out. But after all these rounds that they finally did it, will this be finally a round where BBG could condition version 1 of faking a C site and hitting A after? We'll have to find out now as we're waiting for this timeout to finish. We're still trying to get this conversation in. This is a crucial timeout to have for both of these teams, most importantly for version 1, because BBG have a map in hand in a series.
Do have a pause. Probably just trying to get things fixed here so we can go into this overtime. The fact that they were able to claw back and even go into overtime. Sure, BBG had a position where they could have won this one 13-11. But even just making it to overtime after the way things started is quite impressive. They were down 8-4 and they've somehow turned it around. I'm trying to remember who won that second half pistol, because I'm pretty sure it was version 1.
Yep. It was when they pushed 4 players down B mid.
And you're right. Yep. And then in the second round, we saw the force from BBG, and they lost that too. So in the third round, they had to save. So they were down 11-4, and they went 12-11.
Yeah.
So they won 7 straight rounds, or 8 straight rounds, excuse me, to get it to that point. Would have had to make it 9 in order to close out the series. We mentioned the comeback potential, and I'm sure people were saying there was no way it was going to happen based on the way that BBG had played throughout some of that first half. But here we are. Overtime kicks off. And we do have an op purchase, a rare one that we typically don't see. It's going to be Rarkar carrying it because, again, you have to go armorless, and basically you get nothing else.
And his position's crazy too, right? He's halfway down pretty much. If he dashes away,
playing
like
off the tailwind.
Yeah, he's got a tailwind away, but he's going to be like half exposed potentially there on the right side corner of long C if he actually misses the shot too, right? So that's an important angle for him to take where he cannot miss. But meanwhile, he does have great support from Garage, so he cannot get in from that area either. So let's see what happens. Zelsis is going to try to sell the fake. The rest of them are working towards A. You see the rotation coming out from BBG as well, but that's that change. As we say, they keep C site open a lot. They have both cyber cages for the defenders on the A site, and a trap bar is there too.
30 seconds left.
You're on site, trying to get creative with the cyber cage. It backfires. Now that leaves Poach in an awkward position. This round not looking so good for BBG. Zelsis will pick off one more. There's no sense, obviously, in not going for this. It's swap sides. You have to win 2 in a row.
Yeah.
It's down to 2, and it's 4 on the other side. The peek from Rarkar didn't spot the head of Zelsis. Thought maybe he'd see it, but it wasn't there. Critical at least gets the pickoff onto Zelsis, but player 1 changes positions, and now things get tricky. You've got the Triangle of Doom set up. So many crossfires, so many preventative measures from keeping Critical out. And yeah, you can see it start to come together there at the end. BBG lose the first round as version 1 hold on to the lead they let slip away in that second half.
Yeah, you definitely want to try to close this out right now here for version 1, because the more of these back and forth that could potentially happen between these two teams, the more you might start feeling the pressure from version 1. You take the advantage for BBG. Again, just due to the simple fact that you have a map in hand is going to be huge right now for BBG's confidence. They have a chance to bring this into a double overtime. Not sure into this round if we actually do have an operator coming out on the attacker side for Rarkar, because we still have to switch sides here. But again, we have to look at the conditioning now for version 1. Can they get it done here as they... Oh, they're changing things out. They're actually pushing down towards mid again, and it works out because the key player for BBG is the first one to fall. So it's a 5-on-4. Don't worry about this overlay. It's now version 1 on a defense.
Oh, Zelsis' position is so good. And now, things falling apart. Version 1 wins the second map. And they'll be forcing us to that third and final map in the series. The third map, if I'm not mistaken, is Split.
Yep. It's going to be a good one here. Yeah, it's going to be a good one as well. We'll definitely talk about that as soon as we come back from a break. But I think closing this one out here on that final nail for version 1. Again, they had that pressure on their side. They had to try to act differently, where again, all these times that they were working towards the C side for BBG paid off in their favor. Well, version 1 said this time we just want to push more aggressively down towards mid, have that pistol round second half that worked out in their favor, doing the same thing in this time. And it's again all on Zelsis. That triple kill that he got in there, that dismissed to get that information into window was really good there for version 1 to just seal the deal there on that defender side of this overtime. So well done for version 1. We're down to a third map.
No surprise that it's Zelsis to kind of close things out there. We are going to throw things to a very brief break, but when we come back, it'll be a third map. And again, winner moves on, loser is eliminated. This is VCT Stage 2 Challengers. We'll be back in just a bit.